The story of Abraham, the friend of God, long ago, in the city of Ur. There lived a man named Abram. He lived with his wife Sarai, his father Terah, and his nephew Lot. They were part of a big family in a land where people worshipped idols and false gods. But one day, the true God spoke to Abram. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Genesis 12:1-3. Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. He left his home with Sarai and Lot and traveled to a new land called Canaan. Even though Abram didn't know where he was going, he obeyed God. Trouble in Egypt. But God sent plagues upon Pharaoh's household. When Pharaoh found out Sarai was actually Abram's wife, he sent them away peacefully with many gifts. There was a famine in the land, so Abram and his family traveled to Egypt. While there, he was afraid someone might harm him to take his wife, Sarai, because she was very beautiful, so he said she was his sister. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, took Sarai into his house. They had many sheep, goats, camels, and servants. But soon, their workers began arguing over land and water. If you go left, I will go right. All the land you see, I will give to you and your descendants forever. Genesis 13:14-15. Abram and Lot separate back in Canaan. Both Abram and Lot had become very rich. Abram said kindly to Lot, "Let there be no strife between us." Lot chose the green, fertile land near Sodom, while Abram stayed in the land of Canaan. I am your shield, your very great reward. God's promise to Abram after Lot left. God spoke again to Abram. Look to the north, south, east, and west. Genesis 15:6. Even though Abram and Sarai had no children, God promised that his descendants would be as many as the stars in the sky. When Abram heard this, he gathered 318 trained servants and rescued Lot in a brave nighttime attack. Abram rescues Lot one day, for kings made war against the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah and took Lot captive. She told Abram to marry her servant Hagar, hoping she could bear a child for them, but this was not God's promised child. Abram gave him a tenth of all the goods. The first time tithing is seen in the Bible. Afterward, a priest of God named Melchizedek, the king of Salem, came out to bless Abram. God makes a covenant with Abram suddenly. 3 men appeared, angels sent by God. Abraham welcomed them with food and water. God appeared again to Abram in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram." Abram asked, "Lord, what will you give me, seeing I have no child?" Abraham was 100 years old. She was nearly 90. Though it hurt him deeply, God told Abraham to listen to Sarah. But the angel said, God promised him a son and said, "Look at the stars, so shall your descendants be." Abram believed God, and God counted it as righteousness. To seal this promise, God made a covenant with Abram, cutting animals in two and passing through the pieces, a sign of his unbreakable promise. Hagar and Ishmael. Many years passed, and still Sarai had no children. Hagar gave birth to a son named Ishmael. Isaac carried the wood and asked, "Father, where is the lamb for the offering?" Later, when Abram was 99 years old, God appeared again and said, "Your descendants will be as the stars and the sand on the seashore. Your name shall no longer be Abram, but Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. And Sarai shall now be called Sarah. I will bless her and give you a son by her." Visitors and the promise of Isaac. One hot afternoon, Abraham sat by his tent. The servant prayed, and at a well he met a kind and beautiful girl named Rebekah, who gave him and his camels water. One of them said, "About this time next year, Sarah will have a son." Sarah laughed quietly from inside the tent. Is anything too hard for the Lord? True to his word, God blessed Sarah, and she gave birth to a baby boy named Isaac, which means laughter. He believed God's promises, even when they seemed impossible. Because of his faith, God made him the father of many nations, and through his line came Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. Ishmael and Hagar sent away. As Isaac grew, tension rose between Sarah and Hagar. Sarah asked Abraham to send Hagar and Ishmael away. God cared for Hagar and Ishmael in the desert, and he also made a great nation from Ishmael, just as he had promised. Abraham's greatest test one day, God tested Abraham. Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him as a sacrifice. Early the next morning, Abraham took Isaac up a mountain called Moriah. Abraham replied, God will provide. Just as Abraham raised the knife, an angel called out, Do not lay a hand on the boy. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a bush. He offered the ram instead of his son. God said, Because you have not withheld your only son, I will bless you. Sarah's death and burial. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. When she died, Abraham mourned for her and bought a cave in Hebron to bury her, the first land he ever owned in Canaan. Finding a wife for Isaac, Abraham sent his servant to his homeland to find a wife for Isaac. She was the granddaughter of Abraham's brother. Rebekah agreed to go with the servant, and Isaac loved her deeply when he saw her. Abraham's final days. Abraham married again to a woman named Keturah and had more children. But Isaac remained the child of promise. At 175 years old, Abraham died. Isaac and Ishmael came together to bury him beside Sarah in the cave of Machpelah. Final words, Abraham's life was one of faith, obedience, and trust. Moral of the story, God keeps his promises. When we walk by faith and not by sight, God leads us into a future far greater than we could ever imagine. Please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories.